to the Cut Block Podcast, where we cut through the noise and keep it real. Just because a cut block is legal doesn't make it right. Kind of like Cory Hogue's takes. Now, here's your host, Cory Hogue.
Thank you, Jesse, and welcome to the Cut Block Podcast. This week, we're cutting through the noise and getting real about the Lone Star Conference. They're beginning play this week. Got a gridiron briefing. I'm excited to be joined by the Dean of DII, Wayne Cavadi, to talk about the expanded Division II playoff bracket this year, the new super region realignment that happened, what it means for the Lone Star Conference and the teams to watch nationally this season. And then we'll close with the weekend warm-up, my personal viewing schedule for the weekend. My name is Cory Hogue, proprietor of CoryHogueSports.substack.com. Find me on social media wherever you get it at Cory Hogue Sports. I am most active on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and sometimes TikTok. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and review the podcast wherever you listen. And you can find every episode on our homepage, thecutblock.podbean.com. I want to give a big thank you right now to everyone. This week has been tremendous. The podcast drop, the Substack drop. You have been just amazing. And I am really, really thankful and grateful. The response has been overwhelming. Each of you, I cannot give a bigger thank you to you. It has been tremendous, and I'm looking forward to continue this, and hopefully we keep growing and we get better. With that, let's dig into the trenches this week about the Lone Star Conference and the expanded Division II playoff format. It's changing the game, and I released a story on Tuesday. It was CoryHogueSports.substack.com. You can find it there. It is a paid story, but it discusses all of this. It kind of goes into a little bit more detail than we will do right now, especially the realignment. It's got Lone Star Conference realignment news in it. And so listen, get that, read that, see what you think. Let me know what you think on there as well. We've got an expanded playoff bracket. It guarantees automatic qualifiers in Division II now. Before, there was earned access, which means if a team finished 8th of the 7 in the region, they were the 8th, and they won their conference, and that conference had earned access, they could get into the playoffs. Thankfully, that is gone. You win your conference, 16 conferences, you win that conference, you get an automatic bid to the Division II playoffs. With that, they expanded the bracket to 8 teams per region, which also eliminates the bye for the top team in the region there as well. So while this sounds like really good news, more automatic qualifiers now, the Lone Star Conference champion we know is going to be in the playoffs, 8 teams per region. More is better, right? The truth is, the difficulty for Super Region 4, which houses the Lone Star Conference, has just skyrocketed. It's nice to see that the Minnesota schools are out of the mix, but listen, the Northern Sun out. We're getting teams from the MIAA and the Great American Conference. This region becomes absolutely brutal. Think about it. The GAC has Harding. They won the 2023 national championship. They also have perennial playoff contender Ouachita Baptist. That's one conference. The MIAA, they're bringing in juggernauts. You may have heard them before, Northwest Missouri State. They've got Central Missouri. They've got Pittsburgh State. They've got Fort Hays State, who has a big game this week with Angelo. And many are picking Central Oklahoma as a national threat this year, and they play UTPB this weekend. So we'll get an early look at both those teams and learn a lot about both. Oh, don't forget, the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference, the RMAC, is still in Super Region 4. That means you've got Colorado State Pueblo, Western Colorado, and one of the toughest playoff paths in the country. I wrote about this more on my piece over on Substack. Please check out that story on the realignment, the playoff expansion, CoryHogueSports.substack.com for a full breakdown. But I also think right now we need to touch a little more on what the Lone Star Conference needs to do, since East Texas A&M and Tarleton, well, now East Texas A&M, at that time was Texas A&M Commerce, and Tarleton, and even go back a little further, Abilene Christian. But really, the last two that left, Tarleton and East Texas A&M, the Lone Star Conference isn't the same. And it's not just because two well-funded, well-supported teams left, but it's because the rest of the conference stopped trying to keep up. See, Texas A&M Commerce, East Texas A&M, and Tarleton, they forced other teams. If you're going to be competitive, you got to spend the money on sports. You're going to have to put the money in the front porch of the university is football. You put all of it there. That's where you're going to get your publicity, your marketing. Tarleton forced it. East Texas A&M forced it. They forced schools like West Texas A&M and Midwestern State and Texas A&M Kingsville and Angelo State to up their game. But since they've gone, all the Lone Star Conference schools are doing is cutting budgets. This is why they're not as competitive on a national scale right now. It takes money to win. And hopefully this realignment they're talking about, the couple of teams that can come in, the NAIA teams, hopefully they put that money in, put that focus in, and force these schools to properly fully fund their football programs and get the Lone Star Conference back. Because once you get football settled, the rest kind of tend to follow. I know the Lone Star Conference feels like a basketball conference. It has, but if it's going to host the D2 football national championship game, it needs to be a football conference first. And so hopefully with some realignment, bring in a couple of more Texas NAIA teams, we will get to that. Again, find more, CoryHogueSports.substack.com. The Cut Block Podcast is listener supported, and if you have the means, I'd be honored to have you as a paying subscriber over at CoryHogueSports.substack.com. Paid subscribers get every story delivered right to their inbox. Annual subscribers get 6 months free, and founding members receive early access to posts, plus my undying love and gratitude. Monthly is $5, annual is $30. If you want to be an all-star and get that my undying love and gratitude, that's going to cost $120. My love ain't cheap, guys. I can't help it. Now it's time for the Gridiron Briefing, where we get the intel straight from the field. Today's guest is the great Wayne Cavadi, known as the Dean of D2. He's the Division II beat writer for Turner Sports, host of the D2 Nation Podcast, and author of the best-selling Substack newsletter, the D2 Report. Wayne, you had a post on your Substack last week. You laid out your predicted playoff bracket for 2025 D2, and we'll discuss later how wise that was.
Yeah.
But first, let's start with the big picture. Why is Division II expanding the playoff bracket and realigning the super regions?
I think the realignment just came from a need to, I don't want to say level the competition, but Super Region 3, obviously the championship was living there, and it was. I don't like to point a finger and say the word snubs a lot, because it is very hard to get in, but there were a lot of deserving teams in Super Region 3 that often weren't even in the conversation just because of how heavy it was at the top. And I think with the way that you could travel, with the realignment, the travel is cut down. I think it's better that way, which is a big part of D2 sports is cutting down on the travel. And I think it has, I think it's like leveled the competition and is going to give a lot more teams a different chance to do it. The second part of the question is why there are more teams. It was never automatic qualifiers before. So we have 16 conferences now with Conference Carolinas that host D2 football. And now it's automatic qualifier. So every conference winner is going to get an automatic bid into the tournament, which is awesome. It used to be, earned access, which meant that if you were in the conversation there at the end and no one else from your conference was there, you kind of got the extra boost. This way, now there's no more question marks, right? And when push comes to shove, more than half the field cannot be automatic qualifiers, and 16 out of 28 teams is more than half the field. So boom, we add 4 more teams. We're at 50% automatic qualifiers, 50% at-large bids, and if you ask me, we get a bigger tournament, and that means more football. There's no more first round buys, so we get an extra game out of it. And it's from someone that has to watch football all day. It's a good thing for me.
No, I'm thrilled about the expanded bracket. But you talked Super Region 3. The national title lives there. Well, now we got Super Region 4, and that's where the Lone Star Conference resides, along with the Rocky Mountain. Now, we got rid of the Northern Sun, but we gained the MIAA and the Great American. I don't know that that's going to work out well for the Lone Star Conference right now, Wayne.
I couldn't agree more. I think it suddenly becomes the toughest conference super region to get into the tournament. I mean, so you have your 4 automatic qualifiers, right? It's going to be probably Harding, Central Oklahoma or Pittsburgh State, one of the two, maybe even Fort Hays State, but one of those people are in. Lone Star, it looks like Angelo right now. Angelo State looks like they are the favorite. And then Armac is going to be like Western Colorado, CSU Pueblo, one of those two getting in. So there's 4 teams right there, but I mentioned 7 and trying to get to those 4. Yes. So of those 7, now we have one spot we're fighting for between a Washita Baptist that is pretty much always in the tournament. Mm-hmm. Central Washington, who's been there 2 or 3 years in a row, 2 years in a row, 3 out of 4. I think UTPB is a sleeper. Kingsville is going to be tough this year. Henderson State is always in the equation, and we haven't even got to the other MIAA teams yet, right? We haven't even mentioned them. So I think suddenly, where the Lone Star used to maybe have a 3rd or 4th team even sneak in the past, I think those days are definitely gone. I think it's going to be a lot tougher to get in.
I agree with you. I'm actually afraid they won't get more than the automatic qualifier. When I was looking at your bracket breakdown, the preseason, you didn't have more than one Lone Star Conference team. And I would love to sit here and tell you that I can give you an argument. I can tell you, like you've already said, UTPB, I think they're a sleeper team. Kingsville's going to be an interesting one. I'm curious what Scott Parr and Wilson do down there. Brad Wilson, the offensive coordinator. But didn't you talk? You still got Pueblo. I mean, Western Colorado. The Armac is not a joke. Colorado School of Mines. Yeah, it is. It's going to be so tough, and so for like an Angelo State, they play Fort Hays State this week. Yeah, a loss this week. That could determine an at-large bid at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, here's one good thing for that part of the super regions is that Pittsburgh State opens against Ferris State, goes to Central Oklahoma, has Grand Valley State, and then Fort Hays State. So by week 5, if you're a Lone Star Conference fan looking for that extra spot, by week 5, we're either going to know Pittsburgh State's already in the tournament or they're done for the year. Like there's no in between, right? Like they're either going to come out of their 3-1, 4-0 and be locked with their strength of schedule and opponents and be in the tournament, or they're going to be like 1-3 and the season's done. So, that's kind of a good thing to get out of the way as if you're one of these teams trying to find that where am I going to sneak in, right? Because right now, like you said, we barely talked about Colorado School of Mines and, they missed the tournament for 1 year, but that doesn't mean you can sleep on them. Colorado Mesa is always tricky, right? Like they're never like in the Final Four by any means, but they're always a tricky team and a pain in the butt to get around. They're not an easy out. It's a wild super region, and I think it's going to make it fun if you don't have I'm an unbiased reporter. I don't have a dog in any race, a horse in any race. I like to watch football, and I think it's going to make literally the playoffs start on Thursday. Right? Like every game.
Angelo State at Fort Hays State for the second straight year will start, and I love it. I want every Texas team to win. I understand when they play each other, that's impossible. But covering Texas, obviously, you just want to see good football. I want to see Texas teams succeed. Talking with Wayne Cavadi, the Dean of Division II. He's got the DII Nation Podcast and the Substack bestseller D2 Report Newsletter. we talking Lone Star Conference right now, kind of get an outlook. I think we're going to find out pretty quick. This weekend's going to tell us a lot, because not only do you have Angelo State and Fort Hays, a rematch there again, both of them on the road, which I find to be a little bit odd. And then you've got UTPB opening up at home with a team that many think could be a national concern this year, Central Oklahoma. We're going to know a lot about the Falcons. We're going to know a lot about the Rams, and we're going to know a lot about the region just after week one.
Yeah, Central Oklahoma is their offense is a force. And they are losing. They had the number one receiver in D2 football last year in Terrell Davis, and he's gone. But I mean, the rest of that offense is back, and you had Jet Huff, who's just a sick quarterback. Yeah, it's like you said, like right off the bat, but it's a test for them, because Central Oklahoma's defense was, I mean, they were in a lot of 40, 45, 42 ball games last year. So it's as big a test for them as it is for anybody else. So, last year we had week 0. I don't know if you remember, and everyone was kind of feeling it out, right? Like it kind of came on too early. Not a lot of people had enough time to make the schedule. This year, it feels like week 0 is playoff like matchups right off the bat. And that's great for D2, because you've been around D2 for a long time. You don't get a lot of non-conference action. You definitely don't get a lot of non-super region action, because you want your super region portfolio to build. But now with week 0, we kind of get these matchups that are like, whoa, like Minnesota State is at Northwest Missouri State. Like those are 2 all-time powerhouses, and we get to see them week 1. We don't have to wait to see how the tournament goes to get there. And I know, Minnesota State had a lot of turnover. They're still a great program. Don't get me wrong. Northwest Missouri State, new coach, yeah, sure. But it's still the storyline behind it is you have these 2 great powers that are now finally able to match up before a tournament decides if they can do that, if we get the chance to see that, and I think it's great football.
Okay, so I want to drill in a little more here on the Lone Star Conference. We've talked 3 or 4 teams that we think have potential playoff: Angelo State, Central Washington. You've got UTPB, Kingsville we talked about. But this is an interesting race, top to probably 3/4. I think the bottom is going to be pretty bottom. But I think 3/4 of this conference is going to be a pretty good fight every week.
I mean, West Texas A&M is always going to, kind of like what I was saying about Colorado Mesa, right? Like they may not be at the top, like you're saying, they may not be in that top 4, but they're going to go down fighting every time.
And this is a big year.
What's that?
This is a big year for Josh.
Yeah,
out there at WT.
Yeah, and I believe, were they 5th in the preseason poll, in the Lone Star Conference preseason poll?
Right around that.
Yeah. Midwestern State is always tricky. I'm curious of what you think about teams like Eastern New Mexico and Western New Mexico, because sometimes it's weird when I don't get to watch a lot of them, but when I do get to sit down and watch them, it's like I feel like they put up 35 points, and I'm like, oh, is this team good? And then it's like it's like, well, are they good? So I'm curious what your take on it.
They're tricky.
Yeah.
You got Kelly Lee at Eastern, and he runs that flex bone, and that gives you fits. And teams struggle. I remember Bill Maskell when he was at Midwestern State, he hated playing Kelly Lee. He hated Eastern week because he knew he had trouble stopping those guys. And Western New Mexico, Billy Hickman does a great job. We know the funding isn't at those New Mexico schools like it is at some others, but these coaches put together rosters that they're going to be competitive. I've heard some coaches say they think Eastern could be in that top 4 or 5 this year, ahead of West Texas A&M and the Midwestern states. It's there seems to be kind of a little bit of a tide turning here with Angelo State, UTPB separating themselves. Kingsville's trying to catch up. So those schools out in New Mexico always peel off 1 or 2.
Yeah. And let's talk about the reality where we're in, and we're in the era of the transfer portal, right? And we go into this season, and I know, like the projections I made on the bracket of 32 are meaningless. It really is based on last year, because there's no way to predict anything, right? Like Kingsville has that the quarterback Jack Turner, I believe his name, coming in. I maybe I butchered his name, but the new transfer quarterback coming in
from La Tech. He came over with Park.
Yeah, and they're excited about him. So anything could happen. We have no idea how they're going to adapt to D2, and they could light it up, right? And I think that gives the Eastern New Mexico's, I am excited about them. They have some players on there that put up some real stats, and they look like they could be an exciting team. And I think in this era of where we are in D2 football, that those kind of teams can sneak up, and maybe even a little bit quicker than the rebuild or restructure process is, because so many teams are going through this cycle just like they are, right? As much as, the COVID era, you benefited from having guys 5 or 6 years almost because of red shirts. And now all those guys are gone and everyone's kind of on the same level. And that's where you're going to always have, like, the Angelo States are a name, right? They're a name. Like the Ferris States, they're never going to go away, because now you want to make, if you are one of the top D2 players, you want to wind up in one of those. So the Angelo State's never going to go away. But those other teams looking for that last number 8 playoff spot, it's going to be a war. And I think, like, I agree with you to your point. There is, the bottom teams are going to be the bottom teams, and some of them are new to D2, right? So of course they're still learning their way and feeling the way, right? And a new coach at that. So, but I think there's 7 teams that can make some noise this year and make it an interesting run. At least, maybe they finish 2-8, whatever their record is, but they're going to be in every ball game and scare the heck out of everyone they play. Yeah,
and those 2 wins may be one of those teams that makes the difference there. Maybe they beat one of those that decides the top 2 or 3. Right. Speaking with Wayne Cavadi from D2 Nation Podcast and the D2 Report Newsletter. I'm curious. This is one I'm concerned, Wayne. I'm going to tell you, I'm concerned about the future of Division II right now. And I think that we're seeing, and from a Lone Star Conference view, I'm so embedded in this, I may not be seeing this from the whole perspective. So I'm going to pitch this to you and see what you think. I wrote about it this week. Since Tarleton and East Texas A&M left the Lone Star Conference, it's not the same. Angelo State is still good, but I'm seeing and I'm hearing about more funding issues for those programs that before didn't have those issues, and it's concerning to me. And I'm curious, is that happening nationally in your view?
Oh, I think so. I mean, I can't talk numbers or anything, but yeah, it's not alone. I mean, look, and a lot of it is not funding, but some of it is funding. Look at the Gulf South Conference. You got 5 teams left, right? Mississippi College. I know some of them went over to the new Conference Carolinas because it makes more financial sense for travel and everything. But Mississippi College was still in the Gulf South, and they had to stop their football program, right? Like, I know Delta State has struggled in the past financially, and they always pull through. But like you're saying, how long can you pull through? And the Gulf South is just, they're not the only other example. They come to mind because they're a 5-team conference now, and look, I mean, Lone Star itself, look at the GNAC, right? They had to take in Western Oregon, Central Washington, because, there wasn't enough teams that were going to throw a football team together up there.
Well, here's, I put out, there's a realignment talk happening with that Lone Star Conference again, because of those Northwestern teams. Mm-hmm. It is a strain on the budgets of the Lone Star Conference teams, all of them. Big strain on Central Washington and Western Oregon. But if the Lone Star does bring up a couple of Texas NAIA schools and Central Washington, WOU is left out there again, what would their options even be at that point?
You mean for Central Washington?
For Central, yes.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? None of the California Pac West or CCAA, they don't have football teams, right? So I don't. It's very much the, like, how is Texas in the SEC? Like did I miss something? Like, Stanford is in what? And it feels like that. But of course, we're bringing up Texas being in the SEC, joking about it. But Texas's budget is never in question, having to travel to Georgia and then Tennessee on back-to-back weekends, hypothetically. I'm just making that up. Whereas, to your point, Central Washington does not have that budget. So where do they fit in? I mean, Northern Sun, like, is that kind of where they could possibly go, that they're closer, but they're still so far? Like, they are very much outliers into the whole equation of D2 football, because there used to be the Azusa Pacifics out there, but there's just no Humboldt State and all them, but they're just all gone, so they got to go somewhere, and Lone Star makes sense geographically speaking with what's left. But if they expand and they pull up more teams, then that's more of a budget strain on Western Oregon and Central Washington to travel to more schools. So I guess NSIC or maybe GLIAC, but there's no easy equation for them.
Some people say RMAC, and I don't think so either. I mean, I don't know that they want to go play New Mexico Highlands all the time. It might be easier to go to the Northern Sun. That to me is just it's interesting, and that's going to play out over the next couple of years. That stuff is coming. Before I let you go, I want to ask you, I am always so into the Lone Star Conference Super Region 4 bubble. So let me know, who are some of those national teams around. Now, I'm an old Pennsylvania boy. My dad was born and raised around Pittsburgh, so I'm familiar with the Slippery Rocks and the those up there. Gannon, my niece went to Gannon. Nice. So I'm familiar with some of those. I just don't know who's going to be good this year.
I think you got to look at the traditional powerhouses, the teams that can that don't rebuild, they restructure, the old saying, right? Like, you don't have to tear it down and have the bad year, and you can keep going. And that's the Ferris States, the Grand Valley State. Grand Valley State, it's mind-boggling that they have not had a losing season in the 2000s. They've had so many different coaches, so many different players, and to not have a losing season, and we're talking 25 years, is amazing in college football at any level. So I think, the Ferris State, the Harding is good, and you're gonna, if you're Lone Star, people are gonna go far. You're gonna see Harding, and obviously, being around D2 football, that they're 2 years removed from a national championship themselves. The PSAC, the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference, has Kutztown, Slippery Rock, East Stroudsburg. They got some good teams over there that are always in the conversation. But I really think, West Florida is a big one. West Florida is going to be really good. But right now, until someone takes down Ferris State, like, I don't know that they've done it with. They've won 3 championships in 4 years with 3 different quarterbacks. So you can't tell me that it's a player or any one unit. Everyone that comes in there, Coach Neese just knows how to get the most out of every player. And, I said it in one of my previews, you give him 11 warm bodies, he's going to give you a national championship. Like, it's amazing. So I think you look towards the powerhouses, add in the Lenore Ryans, add in like those type of schools. Valdosta State they lost everybody, coaching staff. They have one returning starter from a national runners-up team. I don't know that you could put them in the conversation, but the last time this happened, they finished 5-6. It wasn't like they just fell off a cliff, right? So, depending on, and the transfer portal wasn't what it was when that happened. So depending on what they brought in, they could be right back in the mix too. So I think you look to the traditional powerhouses, the Pittsburgh States, the Central Oklahoma now looks like a powerhouse. They're new, but they look like a powerhouse. And even Angelo State. I think that's why I'm so heavy on them in the Lone Star, because they've done it, right? We've seen them do it. And I think that's the same thing on the national level. You just got to look at that, at those teams that have shown time and time again they're going to be in the tournament.
It's easy to win. It's hard to win consistently. The hardest thing to do is to do it every single year, which makes what Ferris State does so impressive. And I'm sure, Wayne, if we had time to talk, we could drill into how many different moving parts go into that program and how it's all aligned from the president of the university through the athletic director, through the department, onto the football program and everything that goes into all of those different levels to find the right players, right? I mean, you got to scout them, find them, bring them in, develop them. There's just so many layers to it. It's just so impressive. But I have held you for way too long. We could talk for hours, Wayne. I really could. And I appreciate you coming on. Let everybody know what you got coming up here soon.
Well, my preseason Power 10 and Player of the Year watch list came out on NCAA.com this week. It's my first stab at a Harlan Hill Trophy watch list because we don't really get a preseason watch list.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be fun to try that this year. So it's the unofficial preseason Player of the Year watch list. And then my D2 report on Substack, as you said, I'm just going to keep pumping it out. And, each week kind of not necessarily do a Power 10 ranking, but kind of look at the metrics for each region and how that take it through the season and how the bracket's developing, and not make predictions, but try to walk you through each week, with the metrics, what the bracket may look like as we get closer to that selection Sunday.
Man, I'm looking forward to it. I enjoy everything. I eat everything up that you can put out of there. It's Wayne Cavadi. He is the Dean of D2. Catch him on Substack, DII Nation Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, Wayne. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Stay connected with me on Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and more. Just search Cory Hogue Sports. It's all one word, CORYHOGUE Sports. Also, reach me directly at email. You're going to be surprised to hear this. CoryHogueSports@gmail.com. All right, let's get into the weekend war map. It's your mission brief for the weekend. The guide to the games I'm watching, designed to make sure you don't miss the action in non-FBS football across Texas and beyond. And the action starts on Thursday night this week at 1800 hours, 6 o'clock for you non-military folks. On Thursday, August 28th, I'm going to be watching Texas Wesleyan at Lindsey Wilson. This is going to be a great game. Last year, Texas Wesleyan took a second half. They shut out Lindsey Wilson in the second half, led that on to victory, and rode it to 10 wins and a playoff spot. Lindsey Wilson missed out on the playoffs largely because of 2 consecutive losses to ranked teams in the season. One of those, I believe, was really close, maybe like 4 overtimes. But Lindsey Wilson, this game's going to matter. It's a playoff game. This is a resume game. When the NAI, there's very few playoff spots. It's very valuable to get one of those. This game, 6 o'clock, Thursday night, Texas Wesleyan at Lindsey Wilson, and you can watch it on the Lindsey Wilson Sports Network. I'm also going to be watching 1 hour later. I can do 2 games at once, maybe up to 3, maybe if I'm skilled. 1900 hours, 7 o'clock p.m. Angelo State gets the season started at Fort Hays State. You can find this one on the MIAA network. And listen, this is a big game for Angelo State. Last year, they went to Fort Hays State in the opening week of the season, and they came out with a loss. And the offense didn't look very good. In fact, really, Angelo State, we know they were known for defense. Fort Hays State was known for defense as well. Guess what? This year it has flipped. Fort Hays State has 4 returning defensive players. Angelo State only has 5 returning defensive players. But the offenses, both quarterbacks are back. You've got Braden Fuller over at Angelo State. He is the reigning Lone Star Conference Offensive Player of the Year and the preseason selection to repeat that honor in 2025. And on Fort Hays side, you've got Caleb Heavner, a product of Denison High School. A couple of Texas high school quarterbacks going at it there. He completed 70% of his passes last year, 15 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. This game looks like it's going to be more offensive than last year's 21-7 game. It's going to be interesting to see. The Rams need this. The Rams, especially because now it's a region game. By the way, that game last year, this is a region game. Fort Hays State, they are in Super Region 4. This game takes utmost importance, 7 o'clock on Thursday night. Saturday, because I know Tarleton plays Friday. They play at Army Friday night, but I'm broadcasting high school football on the Wichita Falls ISD YouTube network, and so that is not a part of my viewing schedule this weekend. But I pick back up on Saturday. There's not a lot of day games. In fact, there's no day games. Saturday, and I get it. The heat is oftentimes a factor for that. So most games are Saturday night. August 30th, 1800 hours, 6 p.m. Eastern Washington at UIW on ESPN+. Listen, this game became even more important for UIW after that poor offensive showing last week. The defense wasn't horrible. The defense kept them in, but how good's that Nichols offense? We don't really know. What we do know is that UIW got owned on the line, especially the offensive line. The quarterback, Richard Torres, could not read the free blitzer in these packages multiple times. It was obvious which one was coming, and he was not reading it and getting absolutely destroyed because of that. UIW's got a lot of things to fix this week. But they've got Eastern Washington coming in. This ain't the same Eastern Washington team. This is not the team that's the perennial playoff team out there. It is a team that hasn't won more than 4 games since 2021. So they're struggling a little bit. Also, don't forget, this is their first game. Those first game problems and turnovers and mistakes and procedure penalties you see all the way through, that's going to happen to only one team in this game, and that's Eastern Washington, or at least Coach Clint Killow hopes it only happens to one team. UIW has that week. They've had that week to hone in. Every coach will tell you they get their team, the best their team gets from one week to the next is from week 0 or the first game to the second game. And that's where UIW is. They have that advantage. If they don't win this one and win this one comfortably, we're going to start having some question marks about the Cardinals as we move further into the season. And then, boy, howdy, closing it out Saturday night, 1900 hours, 7 o'clock for you normal people. Prairie View A&M at Texas Southern on SWAC TV. And did this game get a lift on Monday when they had their coaches and their kickoff luncheon? In case you didn't see it on social media this week on Monday, here is what happened. Tremaine Jackson got up. He spoke first. When he sat down, he was sitting just to the left of Chris Dishman. Chris Dishman got up for his remarks, and here's about a minute and a half of what he had to say.
I thought Tremaine was going to be up there a lot longer than that. So I guess I got to get my speech together. It's always exciting to play a game like this. Of course, our fans, our moms, and everybody will be excited. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Tremaine for this wonderful song he gave us. I wonder if he can sing that song after. I think it was something Atlanta or something he was singing one day.
Houston this weekend.
Oh, yeah, he was horrible. So, especially the day job and coaching, not saying. But first and foremost, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. It's going to be a very exciting game, and it's a formula that I go by. Win third down, win the red zone. Best penalties in your opponent, and you should win the game. Our 11 is better than their 11. It's not about Tremaine and I, it's about our 11. Our 11 is better than their 11, and we should win the game. First and foremost, thank you, Tremaine, for coming out to see in the stadium. Make sure when you leave that you take a piece of grass, because when you leave on Saturday, you're going to be taking a lot of grass. And also, thank you for wearing the Texas Southern colors suit. All right.
For those who are not watching on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, the video by Terrence Harris. That was Terrence Harris. He's on Twitter. He was with the Defender Network. I think he's a free agent right now, but great job by Terrence Harris to be there and to capture this. And when he panned over to Tremaine at the end, Tremaine was not happy. And to say that Chris Dishman added another layer to this rivalry, to the Labor Day Classic, to this feud, whew, let's hear what Tremaine Jackson had to say. Terrence Harris got with him there after this, and this is what Tremaine said in response.
Because there were some shots taken that we don't necessarily, it's not our profession. Mm-hmm. And so, but I understand what it is and what some people have to do. We don't have to do that. We just go about our business, man. And we've been on this hill working for a long time. And we're going to get a chance to come off. And so, yeah, there is a different level of focus with us right now. But we've been like this since January 7th. We don't allow people to toy with our kids or our program. This ain't your uncle's Prairie View A&M football team. This is us. It's a new field around here. And we don't take shots or disrespect kindness.
Do you think, though, that some of that is just part of the game or part of this game and trying to generate some excitement? Do you see it as that at all, too?
Man, I went to Oak Forest Elementary, class of 94. Mm-hmm. I didn't go to recess. I don't play. We don't play. That's not us. It's not what we go about it. So I don't know what that is. I just know how we do things. And so shout out to Miss Rector, my 5th grade teacher, for not making me go to recess because I didn't play no game.
Yo.
Shout out to Miss Rector, my 5th grade teacher, for making me go to recess because I don't play no games. I love Tremaine Jackson. He's always worth good quotes, but the man is dead serious, right? This ain't your uncle's Prairie View A&M, and on Saturday night, we're going to find out. There's been so much talk and so much surrounding this, and now the level just hit a fever pitch after that Monday press conference. Don't forget, this is an HBCU game, so you're going to get the bands, you get the battle. It is a tremendous atmosphere. It's at Texas Southern this year, so it's right down there, downtown Houston. You got the Astrodome right across the street. This is going to just be electric on Saturday night at 7 o'clock, and I personally cannot wait. Well, I want to give a big thank you to Wayne Cavadi for joining us on the Cut Block Podcast this week, giving us our knowledge. And I want to say a big thank you to anyone watching us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and to everyone listening on whatever podcast platform you have found us. Thank you so much. You have my just undying gratitude. This week has been so great. Thank you so much. Let's have another fantastic week. And, let's meet here again next week with another episode with more unfiltered truth, fearless football talk. We're talking D3 next week. Until then, stay safe. And remember, just because it's legal doesn't make it right. Just like my takes.
Thank you for listening to the Cut Block Podcast with Cory Hogue. Remember, the cut block might be legal, but that doesn't make it right. Just like Cory Hogue's takes.